This is the March 14th work session of the East Fishkill Town Board. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? And then please remain standing for a moment of silence for Bill Sutter, who recently passed away. Bill had been one of our part-time police officers and a member of one of our, I think, the Stormville Fire Department. So have a moment of silence for Bill Sutter. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. You know, I can't say how much we depend on our volunteers and on our police department and our fire people. They do a terrific job, and we really owe them a debt of gratitude for their service. It's really, really good things that they do. Before we get going tonight, I just have to say I'm exhausted. This has been a tough week. Monday, water advisory alert was sent out to the residents in Hopewell Glen subdivision off of Fishkill Road. It seemed that there had been a hit of a chemical, and I've just learned so much about this chemical, trihalomethanes. They are double the MCL, and this was actually missed, unfortunately. This was from a test back in September. Taken the end of September, you figure it takes about a month to get the results back, so the results were probably actually gotten back around November. Unfortunately, and we've fixed the process. This will not happen again. But our people missed it, and the Board of Health missed it. So this actually came up last week, and it seemed like the Board of Health actually rang the alarm and said, you have to send this letter out to the residents of Hopewell Glen. And it's a water advisory, but if you read about trihalomethanes, it raises some concerns about health issues. It's really not the kind of thing that you really want to be working with. It's been a hell of a week, if I may say. You've been going back and forth with Dutchess County. We purchased the water for Hopewell Glen from Dutchess County. The reason we're in this, and I really have always had a big problem with this, if you do a subdivision, what you would do is you would build a subdivision over 50 houses, you'd have central water, central sewer, you would build it, people would move in, you would turn it over to the town. Because we're dealing with Dutchess County water, Toll Brothers just thought it would be easier just to hook to the water line. Dutchess County will not just sell water to Toll Brothers, they insist on selling it to the town. So after 5 homes, the town actually had to take over the system on behalf of Toll buying water from the Dutchess County. And the two issues here is that the system is still being built out, and you're dealing with water that we don't control. So when this came up on Monday, the letter went out. I was trying to get some answers from the county. It was very difficult. I called the county executive. Asked for him to call me, didn't call me. I called back again, and no response. I was very disappointed that, I got to say, Michael Caldwell from Dutchess County Board of Health has been fantastic. And who's our person, Scott, from the Board of Health that we used to deal with?
Lee Felsham?
No,
Tanya?
Tanya Clark. We are going to be down at Toll Brothers Monday at 7 to talk about the health issues with this trihalomethanes. And I got to tell you that Dr. Caldwell and Tanya are very, very, very responsive, so I'm very happy to say that. So we've been going through this all week, talking about plans, what this is, what does it mean, where can we get water from to replace this water, flushing schedules, testing, and we decided to take another test. 4:30 tonight, while my secretary is getting the rest of the names down to have water purchased, we're going to purchase water coolers for each house in Hopewell Glen. We're going to lease them until we could get the test results, because the big question was, it could be 2 weeks till we got the test results, or a week or two, what's the water? We had no idea. So Gina was just finishing up putting together the spreadsheets to order these things, and Scott calls me on the phone, 20 after 4. Says, we got the test results. Now, we just took the test the other day. Ken Sabia from VRI, our operators, Kenny was great and got the lab to look at the water, get the test results. We got the verbal back about 20 after 4. Scott called me. And just for the people in Hopewell Glen, I want you to know the water's fine. The MCLs were way below the MCLs. The trihalomethane is way below the levels it was before, and way before the levels that cause any concern. So it's been a week of hell for everybody from in Toll Brothers, because we didn't know. So I got to thank Kenny from BRI, because, you know, without Ken, I don't know where we'd be. We all learned a few lessons here. We will still have the meeting with Dr. Caldwell and Tanya Clark at Toll Brothers at the Hopewell Glen to talk about the health issues and to explain it further. But the water is good to drink. We canceled the residential water coolers, and what were the levels, Scott?
Today, the highest level was 40, and from there it was, I think, 39
Yeah.
and 30.
And the MCL is 80.
Is 80.
And we had tested out a 163.
Right. Now, the one thing I would like to add is it seems to be primarily a seasonal problem.
Mm-hmm.
And back in August, September, that period of time is the highest point for the concentration. So we're not completely done with this issue, but we do have breathing room to try to come up with a plan to avoid the same rise in levels.
We've all learned a lesson here, and number one, after we get a hit like this, we'll retest. I mean, had the Board of Health given us the ability to retest before sending out letters so we could actually know where we are now.
Okay.
But we sent out the letters per Board of Health, and it is really, you know, made for a lot of a sleepless week.
So the explanation is seasonal?
Seasonal has a great deal to do with primarily temperature and turbidity in the river.
Yeah.
And what would you possibly do to address that seasonally, a flush?
Well, a flushing system, I think, we'd probably be looking more to flush in the warmer weather.
Well, there's a lot of variables. A lot has to do with how the Joint Water Board manages their water.
Well, there's a lot that's not in our control.
There's a lot of variables before the water even gets here.
But I also think we should point out to everyone that it's an average of the yearly testing.
Before.
This September test was the first time we had to do an annual test on the system. It's a new system. With a high reading like that, we'll now test quarterly, and then it's an average over the year. So if your average over the year is below 80,
that's correct.
You're in compliance with the state standards.
Okay.
So we have to take that into account also.
Well, although I would say that if we were to have another hit of, say, 160 or something like that, I wouldn't wait the quarter. And we didn't wait the quarter this time around, because the quarter...
No, you can't wait. You have to do the notification. And I'm not quite sure, even at the next reading, even if we're well below, because our quarterly average is going to be over 80, chances are we're still going to have to send that
We'll send out the
notice of
we'll
item. We'll have an attachment explaining all the math that goes behind it. So,
All righty.
so we do anticipate that. So,
But we are good with the water,
as of right now, we're good with the water.
as of right now.
Yeah.
And it should be noted that this is a problem that is because of it's chlorinated in Poughkeepsie.
Well,
And by the time the water gets down to here to East Fishkill and even to IBM, there's such a delay.
Such a length of run, yeah.
There's a.
And what is a byproduct of chlorination of the water that comes from Poughkeepsie, as you say, and there's a lot of factors that are involved with this.
So the water supply services the city of Poughkeepsie, the town of Poughkeepsie, parts of Hyde Park, and the town of East Fishkill, and we understand that parts of Hyde Park have a similar problem as this issue. So it certainly appears to be that those systems at the end of this pipeline
have this issue.
is the problem.
But when this brings us, Scott did want to talk about it, it's not on the agenda, we'll talk about the water consolidation plan that we will be doing, because...
I think this brings to light how critical water is.
Absolutely. And, you know, if we should control our water, because when I called up Dutchess County, there were not a whole lot of answers up there. And when I called to talk about, well, you know, looks like somebody's gonna have to install these coolers, or these water coolers in the houses, and basically, you know, that was on us, because Dutchess County said, read the contract. This is water advisory. So we want to do the right thing. This is why we're going to go out and do this. But we really got very little, except for the doctor from the Board of Health, Dr. Caldwell. Really, I don't think we got a whole lot of help from Dutchess County. But I would like to thank Dr. Caldwell and Tanya, so we'll see how it goes. Water's good, and we will keep on this.
We'll keep with close monitoring, and, you know,
Yep.
as time goes on, we'll continue to monitor, and, we'll,
Yep.
you know, and again, in the fall, it's going to be a concern again, so.
Yeah. Okay. Great, thank you very much, Ken. Thank you. I gotta tell you, we learned a lot from this,
Yes, we did.
but
Yes, we did.
I don't know where I'd be without VRI. You guys are the best.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kenny.
So long.
Thank you, Ken.
Thanks, Ken.
So can we alert the residents who don't watch tonight?
The email will be going out. We have an email chain established as of the other day. And tomorrow morning when I get in, Gina and I will put together a message to the homeowners saying that the new levels are fine and the water's fine.
Yeah, unfortunately, this reading that we did does not qualify for an official, because it has to be done quarterly.
Right, so
to
we
meet the
can't
regulation.
say,
So it won't change our average, but at
Right.
least we know the water's.
we know the
safe
water's
for
good.
our
And you
peace
know
of
what?
mind.
To us, that's the bottom line.
Right.
We know the water's good.
Yeah. Peace of mind, yeah.
Yep, it's been a terrible week. Okay, some good news. Let me just tell you some good news. They moved the ice house today from across the street. Bill, you saw it. It was a really cool thing. They came out, and I have to thank Elwin Hyatt from Hyatt's Garage. He brought the truck and a driver, and Glenn Metzger had his big backhoe. We didn't rent a crane. We ended up using one of Glenn Metzger Construction's big cranes, or big backhoes. And he had like 4 or 5 guys there, and they ran the backhoe. It was cut the other day. They loaded on Elwin Hyatt's lowboy. They pulled it out, and Glenn had 4 or 5 guys in his backhoe, and Elwin or Glenn Metzger, neither of them charged us anything. They did it for the town of East Fishkill. And you know, when I go back to saying, when you see like the firemen, you know, and what they do, I mean, what a great thing. So they moved out of here. What time do you think they left, Bill? It must have been around 10?
Yeah, about that.
About 10 o'clock?
Yeah. And our police, and Corey was,
Yep.
Sergeant Earhart was one of them who blocked off traffic and escorted them to Phelan Road.
Yeah, great thing. And they put it together, and it's on the site, and it's all set up. Now, it's not finished, but it's set though. So, I mean, that was a terrific thing this morning. I mean, a very, very, very nice. And I think that Malcolm said he's surprised how quickly it all happened.
Yeah.
By the time they got out there, started moving it, and it's over, it's all set up. So, this is terrific.
Great
So,
project, yeah.
yeah, thanks to Glenn Metzger, Metzger Construction, and Ellen Hyatt of Hyatt's Garage, because really appreciate everything. That's
I just like to
really
mention
good.
Bill McClellan had a hand in that as well, and I think that helped things go smooth as well.
Okay,
So
and Bill was
go
up
for that.
today, yep, Bill was good, so really, just a great joint effort. So, really, really good stuff. That's all my announcements for tonight. First on discussion, I did want to discuss a little bit is recreation. Over in recreation, we were talking a little bit about security and policies and things. Jan, would you like to come up? Jan McHugh is here, she's our legislative aide to the town board. And we've been doing a lot of work with a lot of things, and Jan's been very instrumental in working with us, especially with recreation. Bill, I know I did ask you if you would check on the cameras. Did you talk to the police department? We have,
Yeah, I was over today at the police department.
just so people know, we have security cameras in the rec park now, right?
We have 8 cameras, I believe it is, at the Wally's Pavilion, they call it.
You're supposed to say where they are?
Yeah. Well, you can see. And a couple in other locations
Thank you.
that are monitored remotely from the Davis house.
Okay,
So, and I was at the police station this morning with Captain Dowdy, and was looking at what our dispatchers actually look at in the police station. And they can monitor the park. Not that they do that regularly because they're pretty busy.
Yeah.
But they're up on a screen and they can take a look at things. So if something does happen, and we could possibly get somebody out there pretty quickly.
and even if they don't spot it, everything's
It's
recorded.
recorded for 6 months, I think.
Wow.
Dwayne said, something like that. So if there is something that happens, we have a good recording of it. And the cameras are very, very clear, remarkably clear.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Remarkably.
That is
And they
cool.
can zoom. And they had a car parked near our basketball courts, and you could actually zoom from the pavilion right to the license plate number.
Oh.
So
wow.
you can get some pretty good stuff.
Wow.
So these are
That's excellent.
These are first-rate cameras.
And, you know, we hate to do this, but we've had, you know, graffiti in the park, we've had vandalism in the park. Unfortunately, you know, we have to install the cameras just to protect our, you know, the park.
And we do have the signs up as required by law that
Yeah.
video surveillance is in use.
Yeah.
And it's a deterrent.
Yeah.
And all the studies show that just the fact that there are cameras is a deterrent.
This is good. One of the things that we will have to discuss, obviously, bring up the signs that are needed to be installed. We're working on signs for the park, I think signs for the main park. Actually gonna be doing, I guess, rules. If you use the town park, we're gonna actually have on the signs, these are the rules of the park. And I know we've discussed a couple, Tom's been there, I think we sent them to the rec board.
Yeah, the rec board has a meeting on Monday night. They'll be reviewing it, giving you their suggestions if
Okay.
there's any in addition to what we discussed.
Bring the microphone over to you. You can move the microphone. I always try to leave a lot of wire so I can put it somewhere else. But this is good, and I think, and Tom, I'll have to ask you this, when you're, you know, a resident of the town of East Fishkill, you want to use the park, you go in, you're gonna see at the main entrance, there's gonna be rules, and I forget what the rules were, but there's gonna be like no, I don't know, no swearing, stuff like that.
Well, that's been part of the problem that we've had is, as you've indicated, there's been the violence, but there's also people who are perhaps skateboarding where they shouldn't be skateboarding, to bringing trash in, things like that. So the rules will be there at all the entrances, and it's not only going to be in the major rec fields here in Oakville, but all town facilities. And the other aspect that's being discussed by the rec board, and then we'll come to you, is the possibility of issuing ID cards for those people who don't have a driver's license or any other proof of residency, because the town parks in East Fishkill are paid for solely by the town of East Fishkill taxpayers, so that we can limit it. Obviously, we don't, you know, aren't gonna go around looking and say, do you live in East Fishkill, et cetera.
Right.
But the problem that the police have encountered over the years is that there is certain age groups that don't have driver's licenses yet, et cetera, and they don't display any identification. And
Right.
they've given false names and fake phone numbers,
Addresses
which kind of
and
makes,
such.
you know,
Yeah.
the whole policing activity difficult. And so basically, one of the rules we were talking about is that if you're unable to at least identify it yourself as an East Fishkill resident, you could be asked to leave the park until such time as you could do that. But this will only be in cases of when there's an issue in conduct, behavior, or whatever might be going on. It's not going to be that everybody's going to be subject to being checked for their residency. And it certainly doesn't preclude people over 18 years of age accompanying people from out of town if they're having a ball game, a picnic, something like that. Certainly, there's no objection to that
Having a
kind of
guest,
use.
yeah.
But it would certainly be with an adult supervision of youngsters underage from out of the area.
Okay. And that was one of the things that I was wondering, so I walk my dog. Do I have to get my dog? He lives with me. Do I have to get him ID?
That would be allowed.
Okay.
As long as it's licensed.
Okay, that's true. He carries his license. Now, as myself walking through the park, I always have my license, so then I wouldn't have to get an ID. Just a picture ID, picture of license with your address, it proves residency.
Of residency, and that's only in the case of an issue developing. Obviously, I don't think anyone's intent is to go around and check, you know, are you a resident? But
You don't know my
obviously,
dog.
if there is an incident, or there's a crowd, and there's an issue, an argument, a dispute, et cetera, sometimes it's necessary to.
Absolutely. And you know, that is one of the problems, and it's kind of a shame because a lot of people use our parks. We really have some great parks, especially I love the main campus. But the last few years, you've just seen people just very little respect for rules, very little respect for our security people, and even our police officers, the things that are said to them, and just a total disrespect. And it just ruins the park for everybody. It really does. So I think this is going to be a
And
good way to...
the other issue too, along that lines, is the fact that we may want to consider a rule that children under the age of 16 should be adequately supervised. Because I think there have been instances where we found that there are groups of children under 16 without any appropriate supervising. Now, I'm using the word appropriate, doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be an adult or a parent, but at least someone of age that would be responsible for supervising their conduct.
That's a good idea. So Jan, the rec board's going to be looking at this on Monday night in their work session.
They're going to be discussing it Monday night.
Excellent.
So their recommendation will come to you shortly after that.
Good, because it is that time of year. I mean, I can't believe here we are talking springtime already. We're talking concession bids and everything like that, so. Oh, that's good. And we talked about the policies we'll be enacting then in the park. So I think that that's going to go, you know, we just want to really make the park a nice experience for everybody. So that's good. Speaking about that time of year, I know that we're getting ready for the camps and for Red Wing. We had some openings. And I know Joyce Maroney's not with us this year. She's retired after several years. And we've been filling positions. And this is like the first year. We've talked about this in previous years. I know people would come to my office and say, oh, I didn't know, you know, where do you get a job with recreation? You know, we say, you know, if I known, I would have, you know, applied. So this year we actually put it out in the newspapers and Channel 22. And now we got quite a few very good applicants. And it seemed like a lot of people with teaching backgrounds or what have you. And, you know, I know with Joyce, she did a great job for all those years, and she did say it was going to be, this was her time to retire. She wanted to spend more time with the family, but we had to fill these positions, and I got to tell you, I'm very, very happy with the people that have applied. And Nick, you and Peter were on the interview board.
Yeah.
You know, we interviewed everybody, got resumes and stuff, and Jan, you were there. And
Yes.
how did we make out? I mean, I'm thrilled with just seeing the resumes that came through.
Well, we made out terrific. I mean, we had a substantial amount of people apply, and they were all really wonderful. It was a hard decision to do. But there was a general consensus, and Jan was there, myself, Councilman Cassidy, a member of the Rec Advisory Board, which he was a great help, and of course our Rec Director, and he was a big help also. And, you know, after all the interviews of all the new people, and we ended up taking one of the co-assistant directors from last year.
Yeah.
And, you know, I guess that's a testament to Joyce, that she was such a good leader, and we took one of hers, and we're
Yeah.
very happy.
That is really good. How long is he, now, that was Brad Bengal, I believe it was that the applicant?
Yeah,
'Cause I met
Brad.
him the other day in your office. I'd seen him, and I said hi to him before, but the other day is the first time I ever really met him. How long was he, do you remember how long he's worked at the
7
park?
years,
He's
right?
7 years as assistant director, but I believe he was counselor before that.
No kidding, yep. And now he's a gym teacher and a very, very qualified, so.
I think he's going to bring a lot to us. Like you said, there were many impressive applicants, and it was a tough decision. And not just for the summer camp, but also for Red Wing. So some big shoes to fill with Jen El Sharif and Joyce.
Yeah.
But what Brad brings also is some, not only he has 11 years of teaching experience, but he also has developed a lot of programs in education, so, mentoring programs, adaptive phys ed programs, and I think these are things that down the road
Wow.
are really going to benefit our camp.
Wow, well, that's very,
I think
it's good.
also didn't he have some experience with, I don't remember, was it handicapped children?
That's
or-
the adaptive
Yeah,
programs that.
wonderful, wonderful. I mean,
did.
very impressive.
Wow, no kidding. You know, that is very interesting. And, you know, of course, we're big fans of Julie's Jungle, and that's going to be our adaptive playground,
It
you know,
is.
and you know, still, I got to appreciate our Julie's Jungle group. They're very good. This is just a very good program, and, wow, it's really exciting.
Yeah, it
Really
is
looking forward
exciting.
to
It is.
So,
Yeah, and I'd like to thank again all the members who helped out,
yeah,
Jan and Councilman Cassidy, and
yeah.
our Rec Director, Bill Green, big
Yeah,
help.
yeah,
So
yeah.
thank you
The
all.
gentleman on the rec board, because I just saw him in the hallway, he was who was,
The one
Mike
who-
Kiesler.
Mike
Mike
Kiesler.
Kiesler, yeah,
Big
Mike
help,
was good.
too.
Yeah, so-
Thank you, Mike.
This is terrific. Really looking forward to a new season and a good season up ahead, so. Good stuff. This is really
Yeah,
great.
I think, I think the group too, who did all this interviewing, I think the group that they've suggested and we've come up with is a good combination of experience and continuity of the programs, but also some fresh ideas, which is always a good thing to put in, throw in the mix. So I think it's going to work out very well.
With that said, we still are looking for a health director for summer camp.
Right.
Excellent.
So if
Good
anyone
point.
knows of anybody, an EMT or nurse looking for a summer position, this would be ideal for them.
Okay,
So we're still looking for someone. We've had a couple of inquiries, but we haven't found
okay.
anyone yet.
What are the requirements for the job?
Again,
EMT?
either an EMT or a nurse or a physician even, but.
Okay. Any doctors just hanging out for the summertime? I
Exactly,
don't
a
know.
little like side job.
Yeah. But, okay, so we are looking and what is that?
It's the health director for the
Health
summer
director.
camp.
Okay.
Tina Smalley had done it for years, and
Yeah.
she'll be retiring from that position as well.
Yeah, Tina said that she has to spend time, with other pursuits, so.
Right.
And she said how hectic it got last year, because she's doing the health aid over there and then working over here, so.
Right. In
And Tina's
addition to
been
her
great.
other job,
So,
right.
How many kids were in our camp last year? Do you have?
I believe there were 400
400.
registrants.
400, that's right.
good. Jan, thank you very much.
Oh, thank you.
And
Thank you, Jim.
we look forward to a lot of cool stuff.
Terrific.
All right, next on my discussion sheet, and I'm sorry about putting out this discussion sheet, but I did just want to kick around a few items with the town board. There's a project going on at the gas station across from John Jay. And that had been a problem. I guess it had been a pollution source years ago. I know DC actually had in the old car wash, I believe they had one of those machines that would pull the water from the ground, filter it, and put it back in the ground. And I don't know, DC was involved as a pollution situation. And then the new owner bought the property. They wanted to redevelop, clean up all the pollution and stuff like that. Now, my concern with this, and what I just put it down to discuss water testing, was I believe, and Scott and you and Tom know that the areas that are identified there was the pollutant MTBE?
Yes.
It was MTBE. And then the areas, there was only 8 or 10 houses in Lake City that were identified being polluted by MTBE.
Correct.
My problem with this is, and knowing up where we have the salt issue up on Route 52 and the Conic Parkway, where DOT had their salt, and we're actually, I think we have another meeting with DOT next week on that here at the town hall. I think it might be next Thursday.
It's the
I'll check
21st.
date.
That's
Is that
right,
the
Thursday,
21st?
the
Yeah.
21st.
So, the problem with that was, the same as this one here, so we asked DEC or DOT for that one. Well, who did you test? Well, we tested whoever called. We did some random testing and tested whoever called. Now, we know when EPA has a Superfund site, they test. They do test wells. They go to great extent to identify the plumes. Now, up on 52 and the Parkway, and I can't think of her name now, her last name is Jobson. She's spearheading the project. She said if anybody wants their water tested, contact her. And her number is, I have her number, and anybody wants a water test up in that area, see if they have any salt contamination, you can call Sandra Jobson, and we'll supply the number, and she'll send somebody out to test. My problem is in Lake City, two questions. How long ago were these residences tested? And there's nobody to call like Sandra Jobson to test. And I'm concerned, because my concern is, and I'm just trying to get my arms around this, so these houses here have been identified as being polluted, but there's a lot of houses in Lake City. My concern is, DC, when did they identify them, and how big of a project was it? How many did they look at? So what I'd like to ask the town board to do is I'd like to set aside, like say, and take it out of my budget, say $5,000 for random sampling of wells in Lake City to find out if there's been further pollution from this MTBE issue. I think it'd be good. I think we need to know, and I think we need to know on behalf of our residents. Again, in the Route 52 Taconic Parkway salt situation, you can contact Sandra Jobson, and she'll send somebody out. I don't see that happening down at Lake City, and I think it would be in our best interest, especially at this point when there's being a redevelopment at this station now, that we know this. So that's my thoughts, and I would ask on the 28th that I just asked the town board to authorize me to use $5,000 out of my budget for random testing in the Lake City area for this MTB issue.
Now, the test, we've talked about this a little bit. The test was drawn about $500-600.
That's
per test.
Right. And I think it's very timely because as with the reconstruction of the gas station, the town now has to meet with the state because there are 10 homes that are in filtered water. And the concept is that we're seeking money from the state to be able to extend the water main. The person who owns the gas station who's reconstructing it is going to bring a water main across 52 to the back of his property. And then we would look to the state to, between the polluter, the original owner, and the state Superfund fund,
Yeah.
to give us sufficient funds to be able to have that pipe extended to the 10 homes that we know of. But before we go and start making that argument to the state, I think it's prudent to do some other testing to make sure that there aren't another, God forbid, but another 10 or 20 homes.
Exactly.
So that we can make the case for all of the people.
Exactly. That's it in a nutshell.
I
So,
agree.
You guys okay with that?
How would you pick
I think
the
we would,
sample wells?
I think we'd look at location, to where the ones that are noted are, and maybe, do a couple of here, and just maybe a couple
Do like an
randoms.
arc, or-
Yeah, I would think.
Well, we may have to kind of do it in 2 phases, I think.
You think, Scott?
know, We know the ones that are contaminated, we're
Mhm.
gonna maybe pick a reasonable distance beyond that point.
Right, right.
If they come up positive, we may have to
Then go
expand
beyond.
it. Yeah,
So
we don't
maybe
wanna
do-
go too far.
So maybe do 5 and then
come
see how
out
that...
negative and then
Right.
this in between, so I think we have to go out in steps.
Okay.
So do 5, then maybe if it comes
Right.
up to,
Right, right.
that makes sense.
And maybe if it looks like it's going that way, then we'll do
Right.
that way, so it
it's
gives us a
gonna
little
be not
direction
just
too.
one round of it.
Yeah, good point.
Unless they all come up negative, they all come up negative in the first round.
Then we'll say, well, we think we're okay with this then, but I think it'd be prudent to take a look. All right, so if we're okay with that, I'll put that on the agenda for the 28th. Number 3 is a maintenance contract. Well, as we were saying, it's that time of year again. Time to get the mowing contracts out there for the cemeteries, the park and rides, and our special park districts. We have actually advertised. I know the town clerk is going to be opening up bids soon. But we have a little issue with one of the bid packets that we put out. A couple years ago, we've done Hillside Lake for a long time. A couple years ago, we decided to put it out. I thought we were going to put it out for a bid. And our union president at the time and our ground superintendent said that if we did that, they would grieve it. So I said, you guys do it, no problem. But then a couple years later, last year, we actually did put it out to bid. Tom, we were grieved on that, correct?
Well, actually, yes, they filed a unfair labor practice against us with the Public Employment Relations Board in Albany, alleging that we took work that's customarily done by the bargaining unit and contracted it out. And it was all of $992 worth of work over the summer.
Right.
That they proceeded to challenge us.
Okay. So although we did settle, you said it looked like it was definitely going their way.
Well, it went so far as a conference with an administrative law judge, and based on some recent decisions of PERB, which is the Public Employment Relations Board,
Right.
he was leaning, the administrative judge seemed to be leaning towards the fact that it's very difficult to, if you have people mowing, to say that other parts of mowing is not part of their work.
Right.
So what we agreed to do in the recent settlement of the collective bargaining agreement is we wiped the slate clean. They withdrew their complaint. We agreed that it wouldn't constitute a past practice.
Yeah.
And we're starting fresh now.
Right, so
So
now-
now the decision is, if we contract it out, they'll restart the
Yeah,
process.
yeah.
So perhaps the best way is to try to manage it within the bargaining.
So we're back into the town of East Fishkill rec maintenance people will be doing the maintenance work out of Hillside Lake.
And ironically, we already contract out the Loma Park District, and we contract out the mowing of the cemeteries
Yeah.
in the town.
And the park and
And
rides.
that's been done and the park and rides over the years without any objection
Yep.
from the union.
Yeah.
But this particular piece of work, $992, ended up with an objection by the superintendent of the recreation supervisor.
Okay. So there we are. So anybody that bid on Hillside Lake, that will not be done. We will not be awarding that bid. We will be doing that work in-house. I will get the map. There was a map, I think, in the clerk's office as to what needed to be mowed. I will give that to the supervisor of grounds, so he knows what needs to be done. Scott, I believe we have to do a little work on the dam, maintenance on the
That
dam.
has to be maintained as well,
Yeah.
correct? Yeah, to be in compliance with DEC requirements.
So we'll have to notify him of that. And I know there was something that a couple members of the Hillside Lake Board had requested that we do this year. And there seems to be some teenage activity out there by the playground. And sometimes they break bottles or throw things in the sand, so I have to have the sand under the swing sets and the sand in the sandbox raked. I believe that was another request, so
And also the town controller's indicated.
this will be charged.
That he's
yeah.
setting up a system to monitor the number of hours.
Mhm.
And obviously, it's a charge against the Park District.
Yeah.
But also it will give us the ability, say in September, October, to see how much it cost us to do it in-house as opposed to last year's
Last year's-
contract.
oh,
So
good
it'll
point.
be an interesting experiment.
Good point, good point. So we will be doing that in-house, so we'll be notifying the ground supervisor, and
Would that cost comparison have any bearing on a future permit?
Well, I would like to have that information, because I think that is a factor.
Because the $900 thing was an excellent
yeah,
deal for the homeowners in Hillside Lake,
yeah,
excellent.
yeah.
So if there's no savings, we're out of luck. The residents are out of luck.
Correct.
And our guys do it, so.
What about the, you said we have to rake the sand there
Mhm.
because people go and break bottles and those cameras, can we move those cameras around? I'm just asking.
Yeah, we have
Yeah,
cameras, so
we-
we can do some
There
surveillance.
are portable.
There are
Devices.
abilities.
If there is, say, continuing problem, I mean, how many times do we have to,
Yeah, we can do that, though, we can arrange for surveillance.
There's an apparatus.
We can arrange for surveillance,
We don't like to go into all the security arrangements.
Okay.
but we
So
certainly can do
we
that.
can have cameras
Yeah.
there also, okay.
Yeah, so we can do that. Oh, speaking of Hillside Lake, and I do have to mention this, at the last meeting, a resident from Hillside Lake asked who pays for that street light that we installed out at the intersection of Hillside Lake Road and what we call the triangle area there. Yeah, and when I called Central Hudson, I had told them that it would be billed to the general highway fund, because the highway fund encompasses any of those lights on those roads. Actually, Central Hudson called me back, and we had, a bit of a discussion. We looked at it, and I went out there twice and looked at it, and they say, no, it has to be billed to the Park District, and I can see why, because they didn't put it out towards the road, they put it in sideways. So it's more over the Hillside Lake Road that's at the triangle there. And he says, for our purposes, and I guess they have certain parameters about where it illuminates and then who gets billed, they said, no, it belongs to the Hillside Lake Park District. So that was my mistake. I did request it be put in the highway, general highway, but it's being billed to the Park District. And I forget what it is. I think it's like $12. Would it be $12 a year, Scott? Something like that. I mean, it's not a huge sum of money. Yeah, but it gets charged back to the Park District, so.
Well, and that's a
I
good-
was mistaken.
But that's a good point, is that the town is allowed to place lights on the state highways and major thoroughfares as a town-wide charge.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all over the state, every town has that right. But over the years, the utilities in the towns have been given guidance by the state controller's office, and this
Yeah.
is an example, so
Yeah.
that sometimes people think it's an arbitrary decision
Yeah.
on the part of the town, but
No.
it really isn't. There's guidance from the state
Yeah.
controller about how these things are interpreted.
And that's how he put it. He said, it comes from the state auditor,
Mhm.
and he said, we have parameters, and this falls within the Park District, so. So, my mistake, I thought we were gonna bill it to the general town highway, but it will be a Park District charge. Number 4, excuse me, Cannon Property RFP. I've had 2 companies call, 2 gentlemen representing 2 companies, very interested in our property across the street. What are you gonna do with it? And one of them must have been out there just recently, because they seem to know it pretty well. They would like to know if we would be interested in developing it. We've talked all different types of housing with them, senior housing being the most needed in the town, veteran housing, mixed housing, and these 2 companies are very, very interested, and they asked me, please keep them informed. So talking with Scott and our controller, would it hurt to put out an RFP? Just a general, to see what we get, to see, what kind of responses we get. I think we have, 20 surplus acres, Scott? Something like
Something
that?
on the order. We're kind of
Yeah.
flexible with that. And
Yeah.
again, we do have a schematic of the area
That the-
and how it laid out.
That the concept
before.
committee did,
Right.
yeah.
So, it might pay to get some input from people in the private sector that are actually going to do the development.
I would look at it and say, oh, well, this really won't work if that's here, or something like that.
Right, so, I don't know there's a downside to it, because we don't, of course, have to
Talk,
accept or agree anything, but.
yeah, yes, Tom.
And maybe just to refresh everyone's recollection in the town, This is the property across from the town hall. It was
Yep.
purchased about
Thank you.
50 acres.
Yeah,
And the intention was to establish a well field and also to consider a brush drop-off site.
yeah, which we did.
Fortunately, the well is yielding water beyond everyone's expectation, and the brush site is worked very well in the fall. And it was always the intention of the town board when they purchased the property, knowing that part of it would be deemed surplus, land that we don't need to use. And that's the piece that we're talking about,
Yeah.
not the entire site.
Not the entire site. Thank you very much for clarifying that. I think it has a lot of potential. You know, and we did look at it for a senior housing type of a provider. So let's, if the board's okay, we said we could put out an RFP. Scott, we just do a general RFP, the town of East Fishkill is looking for.
Well, I think we try to keep it somewhat general.
Yeah.
I think we want ideas.
Yeah.
There might be ideas that we have.
Yeah, maybe, exactly.
So,
I know the previous developer, they wanted 220 units
yeah, I
over
think we
there.
want to set a cap on number of
Yeah,
units.
I'd rather see, I think 125 myself
Maybe
would be
a percentage
okay.
of seniors. I think we want to
Yeah.
have some parameters, but I
Yeah.
think we want to have enough leeway.
To see what they come back with.
Right.
Yeah,
And obviously, this is not a binding.
Right.
It's to have the proposals made, and then if the board isn't interested in any of them, fine. If they are, they can actually discuss it further and decide how to proceed.
yeah.
Yeah, this might be something for a local contractor,
Yeah.
somebody on larger scale.
Let's see what happens.
Yeah,
Yeah, we put it
maybe.
out there, maybe they would do a consortium. A couple of the local guys would get
Yeah,
together and
that
say,
would be
gee, we could
wonderful.
bid on this. I agree with you there. I would really like to see the work go to a local contractor.
Absolutely.
It's one of the problems, with the big corporate developers here, our hometown guys are having a hard time finding work, so, this could help out. But I think it's pretty exciting. I tell you the truth, the purchase of this property across the street has just been a very exciting thing right along. I mean, the brush drop-off was fine. The wells turned out very good, very good. And EPA is very anxious to come and sit down and talk about these wells now. And, it's just a fantastic piece of property, so I think this is pretty neat.
Plus, you're preserving substantially most of the piece and
Yeah.
open space and trails. which
Yeah,
is excellent.
yeah. So, if you guys are okay, we could talk a little bit further. Maybe we'd have to authorize an RFP,
I
Tom?
think it might be good for a draft to come to the board, and then
Yeah.
have the town board
Yeah,
authorize
so
it.
maybe we'll
at a
get that
future
together.
meeting.
So, that sounds good. All right, that's really all I had to discuss tonight, but Scott did want to talk a little bit. I know when we were up at the Department of Health a while back, talking about our water sources, somebody brought up consolidation, and Scott, you really took to that one like a bird, like a duck to water.
Well, you start
Yeah.
with one problem.
Yeah.
Trying to solve one problem, then you kind of move on to the next problem. And
Yeah.
before you know it, you're looking at a global solution. And that's kind of where we're at right now. We don't want to just kind of look at, through a microscope, just one component of it. I think we want to look, ahead into the future. With that, we're talking about taking the Lake Walton well fields potentially over. And that's one memo that I did to the town board as far as doing some preliminary work on that with that regard, as those tests were performed back in 2008. And the limit is about 5 years on it, so we're approaching the
Okay.
limit on those results.
Yep.
And I just also want to add that back in 2008, they only tested those wells for the development that was planned at the time, Lake Walton, and a little bit of surplus. So we really don't know what the maximum yield of those wells might be. So I think we really need to try
To revisit that.
revisit it, because as we move forward, we're going to make an application to the DEC for a water supply permit, and we want to be able to put on that permit what that maximum yield is. We don't have to go back
Go back, to
and
amend
retest
it.
and
Yeah.
go back and retest.
Okay.
We want to know what kind of resource we have.
And maybe we should just point out that these well fields, as Scott indicated, were part of the Lake Walton development, which was proposed at 92 units, which
Right.
they've gone into bankruptcy, et cetera.
Yeah.
And we've reached out to the bank that took over the property, and they are willing to deed over to the town without cost the well field, which would be about
Yeah.
5 acres, I think it is.
Yes.
Something
Yeah.
like that. And the wells are already drilled, they just have to be updated with it. So
Yeah.
that part of it would be at no cost to the taxpayers.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And I think we should also point out that the water systems are separate districts, and whatever is done for a particular district is paid for by that district.
By that district, yeah.
So that people who live up in the mountain in Stormville and don't have public water, they don't pay
No,
the
no,
cost
no,
of that, so.
no.
Right.
And just a little bit about Lake Walton, I know, and this again came back from when we came back from the DOH a few weeks ago, and we talked about, you know, we need another source, we mentioned to you Lake Walton, and you reached out to the bank, and they said, you know, we would actually do that. So having Lake Walton wellfield is a terrific asset. And you know what, and to what you're talking about consolidation, Scott, what were we talking about Tuesday and Wednesday? Where are we gonna get water?
Exactly.
You know, we wanted water for total, I was ready to drive a new line anywhere to get water over to Hopewell Glen, and we didn't have it.
Right.
So bringing this online, across the street online.
Right. So basically, that's what we want to do. We want to do a global analysis. One component is more source supply. We're looking towards Lake Walton for that. Another component is storage, and where's the ideal place to have the storage. And now that we own the property across the street, it presents an opportunity to get a tank at elevation that we can not have to run on booster pumps, which they are expensive to operate and maintain. So we want to analyze that as well, and then we want to look at what new areas maybe can be serviced as we try to get from point A to point B and connect these components, the storage, the wells, the filters. You know, we obviously made a large investment in Fishkill Plains a couple of years ago with a filtration system that we believe we'll be able to utilize by, you know, with the wells from Lake Walton. So what we need to do is just do a global modeling of the different size pipes we have in these different districts, how we might connect them, what kind of fire protection we'll be able to provide, you know, in the process of doing this.
Where's the storage?
And come up with a game plan, you know, to try to move
For the
forward
entire town.
to solve not just the problems we have today, but problems that, you know, are around
Around the
horizon,
corner, yeah.
you know, around the corner.
You know, well, you know, you have a copy of the 1988 Master Water Plan developed by Morris Associates, which actually had what they call the high zone and a low zone. I think the high zone was Beekman Water, a little Switzerland, and then there's the low zone. So, I mean, town's been looking at this for a while, but I think this is really something we can actually get putting together.
And I also think in light of what happened at the Hopewell Glen Water District with the readings, this allows the town to have alternate sources of water for the residents of the town.
Redundancy.
Absolutely.
Because some of our water districts now rely on one well field.
Yep.
And that if something happens to that well field or something has to be taken out of service to repair, we don't have the ability to backfeed some of the systems. And what Scott's talking about is going to increase the safety net for all of
Well,
us.
it's a wonderful thing, and as Scott has said, water flows both ways through a pipe.
Yeah.
So it's a really good thing. And the other thing too is if the EPA does actually do the well fields down here on our private, they're going to be running probably a 12-inch main right up Route 82, right to the Ryan Drive. So I mean, I don't know if we can catch Fishkill Plains there. Do we catch Lake Walton down here?
Well, wherever we tie in,
But we
certainly we would make use of this water supply and
Yeah.
tie that in for
Yeah.
redundancy, absolutely.
This is it's a great, and again, the property across the street really is very
And again, with
exciting.
these large developments that are coming on before they're all built out, we try to take advantage of some of their infrastructure to help connect these different points.
Yeah, so we don't have to run all the pipes ourselves, so. No, I think this is a great idea, and you know, again, the town had looked at it years ago, and I think this is something we really need to do, especially in light of this last week, so.
Oh, absolutely.
All right, anything else you want to say about getting the ball rolling on this?
Well, first thing I'd like to do is test the wells at Lake Walton. I think that's the
Yeah.
first step. We need to know what kind of resource we have
Yes,
there
yep.
moving forward, so. we'd like
Okay,
to be able to
and we
move forward
talked
with that.
about this again during the week. We're gonna need to test wells at Lake Walton. We're actually gonna need to apply to DEC for water supply permits for across the street and for Lake Walton. Do we
Right.
want to get going on that now? I mean,
I believe for across the street, we can get started. We have some of this
Okay.
lake work to do over at Lake
Over
Walton
Lake
before
Walton.
we can make the
Okay.
application to the
Okay.
DEC. First step being the evaluation. Second step is whether or not the recommendation is made to actually do further pump testing or
Mhm.
not. But they're able to go back and review all the numbers from the old test to see if it makes sense to,
Okay.
basically put larger pumps in and see if it
and see if it still works.
like even across the street, we put a, whatever size horsepower, I don't recall.
Yeah.
Generated 350 gallons a minute. Now, that's as much as that particular size pump could generate, which is more than we need.
Yeah.
But it's not to say a larger pump wouldn't even
Yeah.
produce more,
Because,
so.
that peaked out really quick, and that continued through the
Right, we
72-hour
maxed out that
test.
pump for 72 hours, so
Yeah,
we
yeah,
could have
so-
500 gallons.
I was gonna say, we could have put in a 500-gallon pump and
Right.
see what happens, so. Good. This is good stuff, so I'll get working on that. But we will do the, I think, we're comfortable doing the well test, did you contact our contractors there for the Lake Wellfield, Scott, LBG?
Mayor, yeah, we're going to take them over there and try to get a budget price to make that
Good.
connection, yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
So that was my question, actually. LBG, you want them to do the same at Lake
Yeah, it's
Walton?
going to be, the first is going to be just like a report and paperwork analysis of all the data that they collected 5 years ago to make a new assessment, moving forward, and what we may be able to do with the Lake Walton Wellfield, for our particular application.
And the pump tests.
And whether or not they feel, based on all that data, that it pays to try to put larger pumps in and try to pull more water out, so when we go to the DEC for application, rather than saying maybe 200,000 gallons a day, it might be 300,000 gallons a day. And I definitely want to max out that location and know exactly what we have there.
Got it.
And that's how Four Corners is maxed out, right? When they went for their well application up at Four Corners, which we now own.
They got the maximum that time.
Yeah, they didn't just do it for Four
Just
Corners.
for what they needed.
They got the max.
Right.
And I think that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
So, and there's another great water source we
we're
have.
gonna, yes, I'm sorry,
Just noted that. It's another good one we have, so,
yeah.
good. All righty. Anything else on water? I've had enough water this
No,
week,
I
I
think
tell you.
that's,
I'm just thrilled that the test came out
yes.
okay in Hopewell Glen. So, have a drink of water, Bill. Did I make you thirsty talking water?
Sure did.
Made 'em
Everybody's having to drink water now. Bill, one thing I did want to mention to you and Nick too, is talking about brush pickup or brush drop off, and we should be opening up the brush drop off, I think, mid-April. Bill, you actually sat down and put together some numbers, what you thought should be charged to the residents, which seemed to me to be pretty reasonable, so I'd like to make copies for the board, if you don't mind. And then we have to talk about who would get to operate it, where they would pay in the clerk's office, maybe like a dump ticket, and then go across the street and dump their brush, something like
And
that.
then the number of days, which I don't think we have to be open every day. I think 2 days a week. is
Yeah.
plenty. I think the time can be like, Wappinger, I think, does 5 hours per day, 9
Yeah.
to 2 or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
So people just,
We should get a couple people to man it, for that little bit of time. Now, something else has come up with the permit for over there. We're going to be generating mulch. DEC would like to know how we're going to get rid of that mulch. So, while we're having a brush drop-off on this driveway, would we want to have a mulch pickup on this driveway? And in between, we have the little grinder thing. We just mulch from there, put it in there, put it over there, and get it out of there again. I don't know. And another question, do we charge for it? Do we give away the mulch, everybody for free? It gets complicated because DC wants to know if we do all this accepting of brush and grinding, what are we going to do with the product?
did they come over? They were going to come over and look at that? Week or so ago?
April 2nd.
Oh, it's April 2nd?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
we have to get rid of the mulch, so.
Yeah,
If
And
we have to give it away.
And
we
they
have to
want,
give
they
it
want
away.
to know an end plan
Right.
Yeah.
for how we're going to dispose of it.
so,
Well, I'm not saying not to give it to the residents, of course, that's first, but didn't the engineer, you had an idea a while back about a company that buys all the mulch?
we've been through them, yeah.
No good.
Nah.
In past years, we've gone out for proposals, we've actually agreed to sell it, and they came for a few big loads and then just couldn't get over to get it. And we still have some over at our other
Yeah,
site
yeah.
that we have to get rid of too.
You ever see that pile?
Yeah, that's a big pile. I went with the highway superintendent over there.
Yeah.
I don't
See
know if
that.
we've ever done a formal bid, though. And
No.
got it out into publications
I
as
think we
such.
just actually just contacted.
So maybe,
Dennis
may
put out
consider
something,
that.
I think.
I think we did, because
think
we had
Dennis put
someone
out
from
something.
Connecticut that,
There was a formal?
I think it was somebody from New
Yeah,
Jersey.
Connecticut or
New
across the
Jersey.
river
New
or
Jersey or somebody
somewhere,
picked it
yeah.
up,
Yeah, I didn't know if he put out a formal, if he just called people he knew in the
I'm not sure,
business,
but
yeah.
I know.
we did have several proposals, but the one that was interested to take it never took as much as.
No.
As much as they were going to.
Yeah. So, there we go, brush drop off here, mulch pick up there. you know?
It's probably manageable on a normal basis when you have a big storm,
Mm-hmm.
that you get.
That's when you get the
big-
mountains.
That's
Yeah,
when you get the
yeah.
mountain, and that's when it becomes.
Yeah,
an issue.
actually, you're right, because that mountain was, from that big storm, when we had, what, 2008, I guess, 2009, we had
The
the big
Halloween,
storm.
the Halloween
The
stuff.
Halloween storm, yeah. Wow.
That's right,
That-
Irene, too.
That was a tough one. Was that Irene or no? That was before Irene.
Well, they
yeah.
were both the same year.
Yeah, so, something to think about. But Bill, I'm gonna take your fees for the brush drop-off. I'll figure out the hours, days, and who we would get to just be over there to manage it. Obviously, it'd be open to town residents for drop-off. Mulch pickup, I don't know, that might be another thing. I don't know, you know, depending on how much we have. I've seen Dennis, you know, out in front of the highway garage is so dangerous. I tried to get mulch once. I couldn't get in. I about got killed trying to get in there. I pull up here and I'd wait and I'd people all over there. And as soon as somebody would leave, I'd go to back in. Somebody swoop right in behind me. I couldn't believe it. So I didn't get mulch and the wife got mad, but.
How did it
I
work
came-
out, giving it out up at Leetown? I know
It
Dennis had a
was
pile.
very slow, I piled there, and it
Took a while to get
a
finished.
while before it just,
Oh, that's right. I forgot we tried to put it
It
at
was a
different
good-
areas
it was
in
a
the
good pile
town
in
that
Leetown,
time.
yeah, it was there for a long time.
Yeah, yeah.
The Stormville people, you know. chance.
Take care of it.
So we'll have to
Take care
see.
of that before.
So something we will have to, you know, try to come up with a plan for next meeting. And then we'll modify it as it goes along. Maybe initially we'll have it open 4 days a week, and then we'll see how the demand is. And if demand lessens, then we'll just, you know, we'll scale it down. So we'll just have to play by ear, see how it works out. So. All right. Anything anybody would like to talk about? How we doing?
Just the, from the police, the cameras we mentioned, there was a gentleman, I think from the state yesterday, who went around with Captain Dowdy to make sure all the paperwork was in place and the equipment was actually purchased, inspected.
Oh, for the grants.
Because it was the money for the cameras in Town Hall and the parks came from a grant, state grant that was gotten for us by Senators Saland. And so there's got to be a checkup then about the paperwork, about the bids and so forth and so on. And that all went very well. Captain Dowdy told me today.
Good.
And then also on Sunday is St. Patrick's Day. And it's been in the paper, there's going to be extra patrols by state police, sheriff, and actually we're going to have a couple extra officers on the road on Sunday. And that is coming out of grant money from county grant on DWI and traffic safety. So again, the added patrols will not be something that will come out of
Taxpayers.
East Fishkill
Yeah,
taxpayers.
it's coming out of some taxpayers' pocket.
Somebody's taxpayer.
But it's good.
Yeah.
Good deal. No, I think our police do a great job. Anything else? Everything good?
Everything else is
We
cool.
should also mention that, when is townwide cleanup? April 6th? It starts at 8 o'clock, so it's when the snow melts, we try to go out and clean up the town. Anybody who wants to clean up the town, come to the town hall, 8 o'clock. We get bags, gloves, and we'll send you out, and we'll make plans to pick up whatever you pick up in the bag, so it'll be good. Nick, what do you got? Anything going on?
Several of us went to associations of towns,
Ah,
which was very helpful, and took some classes, and they really helped. You know, for me, I'm new, so
Yeah.
it really does help me. I took some classes on employee fraud and IT redundancy and rec liability. I saw Tom there, rec liability, and they had some good ideas there with the ID cards and other things.
oh, did they really?
Yeah, and then they had a
And
little.
I thought he just thought that up himself.
Well, he's clever, yeah, but I'm sure that helped.
Give away my secrets.
But they also had a nice expo too there where you saw vendors and whatnot. They had a lot of legal firms and engineering firms there and, you know, trying to sell their services
Oh,
to
yeah.
municipal.
Yeah,
No. But it was very interesting, very, very good.
Oh, good, good, good. Planning board, zoning board doing okay?
Yeah, excellent.
Good, good.
Thank you to all the members who volunteer their
Yep.
time.
They do a great job.
And I think there is going to be, I think somebody sent you an email about there's training, free training for our zoning and planning
Yeah.
board members,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah,
always,
always a good thing.
yeah.
I don't remember if I saw it. Typically, if I get an email, I forward it over, but the secretary of the planning board gets those regularly, so, great stuff.
There's one being sponsored by the Westchester Planning Federation, and both boards have a 4-hour-a-year training requirements.
Yeah, they pick up a few credits.
Sending it to them.
That would
So
help,
that
yeah.
If they haven't gotten their hours, it gives them a venue to get some.
Good, terrific. All righty, anything else? Well, thanks everybody for coming out. I forgot my gavel, but that's all right. It's been that kind of a day. And our next town board meeting is March 28th. And see you then. Thank you very much.